Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Before we started this broadcast, we had Fire Up Wisconsin, and I'm bringing Eric Katz over to this show as well because he wanted to come back on there, and I said, no problemo. So, with that said, we have a lot to get to today. We have a good crew. We'll start off with Jordan Long. Welcome back, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
You're welcome, Eric Katz. Well, doing double duty, even though he didn't expect to, but there's no way he can turn down a chance to talk baseball, right, Eric?
Of course, Scott. That's why I like coming on the show so much.
Well, that's why you're a very big contributor. We're glad to have you. And Will Vogel, welcome back. And at least the man sitting straight. Why don't you go ahead and talk about what kind of a hat you're wearing?
I'm actually wearing a college game day radio hat. I actually was fortunate to go to the
Oh,
Clemson. Let's see, I think it was Virginia Tech ACC championship game, and I actually am a Clemson fan. And I was walking by their stand, and I got to meet Trevor Maddich, who works for College Game Day Radio, and they were throwing out hats and shirts, and I actually caught this cool hat. So I love ESPN, I love radio, and I love College Game Day. So I wear this hat whenever I can.
Very good. All right. And we are pleased and delighted to be joined by JP. JP, welcome back. Obviously, you know you have a spot on this broadcast, and we enjoy having you, young lady.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you as well. So, well, let me go ahead and I'm wearing my South Florida Tribune hat. We'll just tote the company line tonight a little bit, anyways. But we have a lot to get to, and we'll make sure we get to every last bit of it. We're going to lead off. After all, it is a baseball show, so that adjective is very appropriate when we talk about lead off. And that Commissioner Rob Manfred talks about extra innings that runners rule could stick around. In the regular season, Philadelphia manager Rob Thompson said the modern bullpen use caused him to favor the rule. So I don't know. I don't like gimmicks. I really, really don't. I really struggle with this rule, but nobody seems to want to let it go. So you know what, JP? What do you think of the extra innings rule?
I don't love it as a spectator, but I can see where it does have its perks for the team. Throughout the year, I feel like there are so many games that could just go all night long, and so you're preserving your arms, I guess. So, I mean, I guess to me, that's a big perk to it. Um, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, the reality is, and I've seen a lot of games that number one, you don't want to wear out bullpens. Number one,
Yeah,
and if you're in downtown Miami and your parking expires at midnight and you have the bullpen rule and you're lucky to get out 11:45, you're not worried about your car being stuck in a Miami garage with the Marlins. But no, you definitely want to save arms nowadays. You really, really do. And as
yeah,
a result, it does come in handy. Now, that rule will not change in the postseason. It's only a regular season rule, is what it is. But I don't know. I still don't like the phantom runner. I don't like what it does to the reliever that has to walk in there and take a loss he really had nothing to do with. And I'm still not going to like it no matter whether they keep it or not. I'm an old school purist, is what I am. But
yeah.
I'm not part of the rules making committee. So if the commissioner is steadfast, okay, then it is. Now, welcome Candy Ebling. She talks in our chat room, talks about changes strategy. It sure does change strategy a lot about when you butt and so forth. So with that said, Will, what are your thoughts about the rule, the Phantom Runner, Ghost Runner?
I could see both perspectives, just like JP. For the fans' perspective, I actually got to watch a minor league game. Yes, I know it's not a major league game, but I saw a minor league game go like 17 innings. I was there from 7 at night till like 1 in the morning. I had a blast the whole way through. I don't care. It's traditional baseball. This phantom runner, I think, is dumb. From the player's perspective, I can understand if you start a game at 7 o'clock and it ends at 1 o'clock, you're probably exhausted. But and there's a lot of back-to-back games. I also understand that in, like, for example, if you have a 7 o'clock game on a Friday and then you have a 4 o'clock the next day and you have to be at the ballpark at noon the next day, how many hours of sleep are you get? Probably not a lot, but still, I'm a traditionalist like you, Scott. I don't like the gimmick. Play baseball how it was meant to play. And I get it. You're going to lose a lot of arms and you may not have your third ace the next day, but it's the fun of baseball.
Right.
It's just so much more fun to watch. I don't like games that are like the guy's on second, the guy hits it, and the guy gets a double, and the other guy scores. And then the next inning, 3 outs, game over. Ooh, oh my gosh, game over. That was fast. Let's play baseball I was meant to play. Extra innings. Basically 0-0. No guys out. Come on, baseball.
Okay. All right, Eric, some thoughts.
Well, number one, I grew up with the game where if it was extra innings, you had better put the runners on. Otherwise, otherwise the run's not going to come across. That's just how I grew up with it, and throughout my entire life of being around the game. I think that I understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do, which I think partially we can blame the pandemic for making all that possible, because at the time that wasn't going to be a thing. What happened was, a pandemic happened, and they want to kind of limit the exposure for the players as much as possible, and kind of get them back into safe quarters, whether that was a hotel room or whatever they were doing at the time. I can't really remember. But I'm not in, 2021, I still saw it, because we were still kind of dealing with it, for the early part of the season. But now, I get they're trying to speed up the game, but man, it is just, I get they're trying to limit bullpens. But what about that guy who you have to trot out the pen, who has to deal with a runner that he didn't put on himself, that was already placed there for him? Doesn't that guy get a little say in the matter too? Because it's ultimately him having to pitch with the runner on second. I've always called for a runner on first because I think that's a little more fair. The offensive team has an opportunity to advance the guy over, and and so on and so forth. And then as well as the pitchers still has pressure, but man, he's not on the fire with a runner on second and no outs. But I understand what MLB is trying to do. I've never liked it. I think that runner on first would have been a little bit better and a little bit more fair for both teams. But at the same time, I just don't like it. It's not how I grew up with the game.
Jordan?
I also think
Oh,
the
no,
argument of like baseball's too long and boring. Like that's a terrible argument, because the real baseball fans want to see the real thing. Like we
Right.
want the integrity of the game to remain. So I think that's a terrible argument.
Well, I agree with you, JP, and thanks for chiming in. And anytime you feel like you have a reason to chime in, by all means, please do so, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Jordan.
Well, has watched our Confidential, which is our Cub show on the Sideline Sports Network. We have never liked this rule, all of us on there. I get why it's in place. You don't want to have the 15 or 16 inning games. I don't mind it in that sense, but to me, it's not baseball. When I turn on a game, half the time I forget, especially when it goes into extra innings, I forget about the rule. I'm like, wait, someone hit a double. Oh, wait, they placed a guy there on second. I've never liked it. I mean, I get what you guys are all saying, that, it's not baseball. And that's the thing, is I get why they did it, to speed up the process so that games don't go into the 17th, 18th innings. I've stayed up when there wasn't this rule, when the Rockies in a regular season game went to the 17th and 18th innings. But then you look at the playoffs where, what was it, in the divisional round where we had 18 innings? I mean, that was fun. That's what I like to see. I want to see that, but I understand why this rule is in place, to speed up the game. That way you don't have to waste your bullpen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, we all know that's the reason why they're doing it, is to spare the bullpen to get to last longer. Yeah, let's not lose sight of the fact that baseball is 160 game year. So, but yeah, we never had to deal with that because of the reason why that COVID-19 had everything to do it. Otherwise, we wouldn't even see this rules. I know they were trying to do things in their minor leagues and they'll test things out there, but I don't know. I'm still not in favor of it regardless. The ghost runner to me just doesn't get it done. I don't care. Because again, like JP mentioned, when you start mentioning about the purity of the game and the way it was meant to be, Abner Doubleday would be turning over in his grave if he saw the ghost runner. Let me tell you. He really would. So
he'd be like, I didn't invent this stuff.
Or even current days with C League. I wonder how C League felt about it.
Oh,
who's that, Aaron? Who's that, Aaron?
Bud C League.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I mean, remember
the former commissioner of
the
baseball.
obviously instituted the rule, but Abner Doubleday would turn over in his grave. So with that said, okay, Next topic.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, Commissioner Rob Manfred expressed doubt that the Oakland A's will get a stadium. He's endorsing Las Vegas. All right, JP, let's go back to you again, okay?
All right. I
Give
don't
me
know. I mean, we've seen Oakland lose a lot of teams over the last few years, or not like last few years, but last several years. And I guess there's a lot that has to play out for them to stay there with some elections and things. But I also think it would be so weird for them to go to Las Vegas. To me, I don't like Vegas as a professional sports town. There's a lot that players can get into there, like they don't need to be involved in. So I guess there are some other cities in the running. Nashville is one of them, which I don't know. I
Yeah,
think Nashville
Nashville.
would be a pretty good town for a baseball. Like it's good weather and yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Okay,
I'm
well,
kind of indifferent. Like I don't really care, but I
let's face the reality. Oakland's losing teams, JP, right and left. They are.
yeah.
The Warriors go across the bay to San Francisco. The Raiders bolted to Vegas. And yet, ironically, the Oakland A's AAA team is in Las Vegas. And some people joke around that the AAA team is drawing the Major League team at Oakland. I mean, that's just a joke that they're all talking about. So, go figure. I'm with you. All right. Well, give me your thoughts about the Oakland A's going to Vegas.
I think it's needed. The ballpark's 56 years old, and yes, there's like old ballparks that do stand up with time, last of time, like Wrigley, Old Yankee, Fenway, and some others. Just very few of them. But I think it's time. That stadium is not a good stadium. Oakland County Coliseum is not a good stadium. I've never been there, but what I've seen is just nobody really likes going there. And yes, the A's were exciting when Reggie Jackson was there and when you got Ricky Henderson and Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco and Tony La Russa managing. But the A's have not been that, I wouldn't say, aren't that relevant lately like those times when back then. So yes, I get where JP's coming from. Vegas is a very interesting, tough lifestyle city. Players can get into a lot of trouble and do crazy things. But also, they have the Vegas Golden Knights, the hockey team, and they also have the Raiders. Personally, I know Vegas is an appealing city, Manfred, and he also said that he can't see them in the Coliseum for 5 more years. I get it. Vegas is an intriguing city, and it would bring an influx of fans in, away, home, maybe overseas, who knows. But personally, I'd rather see a team in Montreal before a team in Vegas happens because I just think Montreal deserves a team again, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Well, Charlotte's
Yeah, I
also been
agree.
talked about. Charlotte, Nashville, and Montreal are the three places that have been talked about it. The only thing I can tell you about Vegas, having been there many times, is you don't want to get stuck in the casinos losing money. So I used to go to Grand Canyon and Hoover Dam, so I can only imagine having professional sports teams take you away from the casino, and you won't lose as much money in the casino if you're going to the games. I haven't been there in a few years, so all
Hence,
right, Eric.
hence why I said I'm on a team in Montreal before.
No, I mean Montreal. But here's the good thing: all three of those markets need stadiums. It
Yes.
depends where they are along the line to where they're going to get them in terms. Right now, I think Vegas is the option. If hypothetically, and I'll bring this up here hypothetically, that the A's end up going to Las Vegas, you can rest assured Nashville and Charlotte get expansion teams.
I hope so.
Montreal, I struggle with right now because they don't have a stadium situation in place either. So I would think to me that Charlotte and Nashville are more probable.
Charlotte would be
So
fun.
their lease is up in 2024, is that
Right.
right? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
and I'm reading that like it would be probably like 2030 before they could get a new one in place. So
Yeah,
Right.
and I just like Manfred said, he doesn't expect them to be in that Coliseum for 5 more years. So
Well,
I think they're
JP,
gone.
you're right. You are. I mean, they don't have a lot. Listen, 2022, you don't build stadiums in 2 years if you're looking at building a baseball stadium. I don't care if you're looking at a college stadium that you can put together in 18 months. All you need to do is put seats and maybe a little level for the view suites. But you're right, JP. They don't have a lot of time, and I think Manfred realized that. All right, Eric Katz.
Well, all right. As far as the A's leaving for Vegas, not shocked there. I mean, it's kind of been in the works for a while that they would be leaving Oakland because Oakland somehow likes to neglect their sports teams. Judging by the Oakland Coliseum, it makes Dan Snyder's creation of FedEx Field look like Yankee Stadium.
That is so true.
And so there's that. Also, as far as Vegas goes, they've shown they can support sports teams. I have not heard an issue coming out about player getting involved in casino, whatever. They have football and they have hockey. Hockey of all sports, I was a little skeptical on, but it shows you that the fans absolutely adore them. And I haven't heard them have issues there. As far as I think they could support baseball because their minor league team, their AAA team, is ninth in all of organized baseball, not just AAA baseball, all of organized baseball in average attendance. So it can work. Clearly, it's shown at that level that fans are into it and that it can be done. I mean, if you're saying all those people are tourists, well, that's a lot of tourists coming out to that ballpark. I mean, when they could easily be doing other things in Las Vegas, as we know about the land of lost wages. And but as far as that goes, I mean, again, Oakland, has, their stadium is just, I'd probably argue I'd rank it below Montreal's creation of the Olympic Stadium. But at the same time, though, they have, Oakland's had opportunities to retain their teams. They haven't got it done, and sports franchises are businesses at the end of the day, and they're going to do what is best for their business. And Vegas is a growing sports market, and man, do the people of Las Vegas and people who visit Las Vegas are sure happy that they have those teams there because it adds another element for people who either A, want to gamble or B, don't want to gamble. It adds another entertaining thing for them to go to. So let's, and my advice to the A's is get out while you can because Las Vegas is going to be good to you.
Well,
and people are probably going to be willing to pay more money for season tickets in Vegas than Oakland.
Well, Vegas is going to get a team no matter what. They'll either get the A's or going to get an expansion team. It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. So, all right, Jordan, give me your take on this.
So, to Will asking if anyone's been there, I was there for a concert in 2017, and it needs upgrades. But if you look at Oakland, and they've had their chance to keep this team. I mean, you look at they want a new stadium. That's all they're asking for. And actually, this was a big deal in 2018 when Marshawn Lynch, who was a running back, obviously, he is from Oakland. He said, we're losing the Warriors, we're losing the Raiders, and best not lose the A's. The thing is, though, Oakland is not going to pay for a stadium. That's all they want. The city of Oakland, for whatever reason, has neglected to say, oh, we're going to go ahead and build a stadium. I am fine with the A's leaving it, especially if they want a new stadium, because they're not going to get it in Oakland. Vegas, as we've seen, has become a sports town with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Raiders with football. And like Eric said, their minor league team. I mean, it's actually not a bad idea to go to Vegas because, Vegas is going to build a new stadium and they're going to get fans to draw that from. So I'm fine with that if they're going to get a new stadium to move to Vegas.
Yeah, I actually was at the Oakland Coliseum once when the Lions took on the Raiders. And even when I was there like 25 years ago, it was still showing the wear. But now I can imagine 25 years later how much dire need of repair it is. All right, well, we'll move on to our next topic. Anybody else want to add to it before we move on?
Yeah, I want to say, though, the alarm bells should have been ringing for Oakland when their teams have been threatening to move out of that city since the 70s.
That is true.
The alarm bells, they clearly had the warning signs there. Heck, Charlie Finley, the A's problems with that stadium go back to Charlie Finley, who has threatened to move the team anywhere and everywhere. He never did, but but he put it out there. Should that have been a warning sign? Which I get. Which the sports teams have actually been good for that city, considering that city is a back end city to the illustrious San Francisco, and typically the back end city gets the crime.
Well,
And
go ahead, Eric, because now I've got some interesting information. But complete your thought.
but yeah, it is. But yeah, the fact that Oakland can't support its sports teams, despite all the good that it's done for that city, and the fact that the fans absolutely adored them. I know during the early 2000s of the Moneyball Oakland A's, the fans were definitely happy to be there. But the fact of the matter is that stadium is just a waste of space at the end of the day. I mean, like I said earlier, it makes Dan Snyder's creation look like ice cream.
All right, but here, let me give you a little history now that you brought that up, Eric. Charlie Finley attempted to sell the team to oil man Marvin Davis, I believe it was. And the move got blocked, is what it did. But yeah, and you could very well, instead of the Colorado Rockies, that it could have been the Denver A's. That was pretty close to happening.
That's because Bowie Kuhn.
Well, I know, Eric, but I'm
despised him.
making a point, Eric. Okay, please let me finish. All right,
Yeah.
You're right, Eric. Bowie Kuhn blocked it, but the relationship that Bowie Kuhn had with Charlie Finley was like with Al Davis and Pete Rozelle. They hated each other. I mean, you talk about battles, but I'm just telling you right now, Eric, that Finley made an attempt to sell it to Marvin Davis. Kuhn did block the move. They had to keep it in Oakland, and Billy Martin might be the guy who literally saved baseball in Oakland because he kept him competitive for a while, and then the rest goes on. Once upon a time, though, Jordan, the Oakland A's nearly did move over to Rockies. Just a little information there, because we talk about franchises moving. This team could have been long gone, as my mentor Ernie Harwell once said with the Tigers. And JP, if you don't know who Ernie Harwell is, he's my mentor. Ernie Harwell's in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and Ernie was like an adopted uncle to me. So, little history lesson for you, okay, young lady? All right. So, with that said, okay, let's talk about the recent managerial hiring, because we have 3 more that occurred. And Jordan, I love your updates on Facebook, how you're written about every one of them. I enjoy reading them. I think they're really great. Now we're going to bring them to the forefront here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. The Marlins hired Skip Schumacher, and obviously previously with the St. Louis Cardinals. The Royals brought in former Rays bench coach Matt Quatraro, and the White Sox are going to hire Pedro Grifol, formerly of the Royals. Now, let me just give you some information about the ages of these prospective skippers. Grifol, 52. Quatraro, 48. Schumacher, 42. Never managed. Now, with that said, okay, these guys are being hired. I think they're all first-time hirings. No Don Mattingly, no Joe Maddon, no Joe Girardi, no Joey Cora. All right, Jordan, you were on top of this thing. First, we're going to let you start off. Okay.
I was actually really surprised that none of these franchises went out and got like Joe Girardi or Joe Maddon. Skip Schumacher, I like him as a player. I don't know what he's going to bring as a manager. He has won World Series as a member of the St. Louis Cardinals. At least he has a chance to show what he learned as a bench coach. Same with Matt Quintero. With the Royals. Again, I'm surprised they didn't go with Joe Girardi or Joe Maddon. Those managers has experience in Pedro Garofalo. It kind of makes sense with the White Sox not going with the manager with experience because they did with Tony La Russa, and we kind of saw what that did. But since he's a little old, he's old school, and of course health problems. But the thing is, though, I'm glad these guys are getting a chance to show what they can learn as a bench coach. Because like you said, they're not very old. They have a chance to be there for years and years, hopefully, to actually have their teams compete. I think, honestly, in the end, I think going a little bit, new school is actually a pretty good idea.
So with that said, Jordan, of these recent openings, which one made the best hire?
Honestly, to me, it was probably, Schumacher, just because he was a bench coach with St. Louis, and he played for St. Louis and saw how well the team played last year. I think he's going to take what he learned in St. Louis to the Marlins, and the Marlins are a young team. They can learn something from him. I think, honestly, it's a great hire for the Marlins. For the Royals, I didn't really understand it, and same with the White Sox, because I thought the White Sox would go with like a guy with experience with Joe Girardi. Same with the Royals. So I thought, the Marlins probably the best hire there with Skip Schumacher.
Well, here's a little bit of interesting information. Mel Stottlemyre Jr., Don Mattingly's pitching coach, assigned a multi-year to stay there. And I can tell you one thing about Skip Schumacher. He won't have to go very far in spring training. All he has to go is from the Cardinals side of the complex of the Marlins. So he knows where Jupiter is awfully well. So I'm looking forward to working with him, although nobody tops Don Mattingly. I can tell you that, JP. I know you being the Yankee person here, Don Mattingly was just unbelievable to work with. And JP, I'll give you some things to do if you want. You should take a look at our YouTube channel and see how the Don Mattingly availabilities that I have on there. I'm sure if anybody can appreciate it, it would be you.
Okay, but I also have to show you all. I don't know if you can see this past my ring light, but
I saw it.
That's
awesome.
me when I was 5, dressed as Don Mattingly for Halloween.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool stuff.
I know.
All right, so with that, JP, do you have any thoughts about these 3 hirings?
Yeah, I'm surprised by the White Sox hire because they did interview the Astros bench coach. They also interviewed the Yankees bench coach, Carlos Mendoza.
Right.
So I don't know, just coming from those 2 franchises and franchisees and having the success that those teams have had, I don't know, I'm just kind of surprised that one of them didn't take that position. I agree with Jordan. I think the Schumacher hire was a good one. He's a young guy and obviously has had success with the Cardinals. So I'm excited to see what he does as a manager for the first time. And then the Royals have said, and I don't know, maybe this is a trend we're going to start seeing with all these young hires. The Royals owner said that they're looking to get more analytical. Like they want to learn how to play the game that way. And that's a trend we're seeing across all of baseball. So that's why they made that hire in the Rays. What was his role? Was he?
Well, yeah. You know what,
bench
JP,
coach.
you're really right.
Yeah.
So let me. Here's the thing: if the Royals are looking to get analytical, they take Matt Quatraro from the Rays, and they're about the most analytical team that you can get.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's what they did. What you said there, JP, you're really on target there. If you want, I don't know another guy who's more analytical than Kevin Cash. Maybe you guys can offer a different perspective, but I think Kevin Cash, to me, is as analytical as they get out there, and it shows. So, all right. With that said, Eric, grade the hires, and were they the right choices?
Well, I was a little surprised by the White Sox hire personally because, I just thought, granted, it's not a bad hire because, he's been, Pedro Grifol has been interviewed before multiple times. So it's not like the guy's just coming right out of left field. This guy's been talked to by multiple teams each year. And then he finally found the job that, that wanted him. So it's not like the guy is an unknown because he's relatively known because he's at least had conversations with other teams. And he's bringing the former Blue. What's interesting about it too is it's not like he's coming in empty-handed. Even though he's a first-time manager, he's bringing in Charlie Montoyo, the former Blue Jays manager, as a bench coach. So there's at least some guidance there. So he's at least doing all the right things. But I think what it came down to was retaining pitching coach Ethan Katz. That's what that hire came down to. I'm not sure if Espada or Mendoza wanted to do that. So there's really an unknown there. But I think what it came down to was he was willing to retain Ethan Katz. But this guy's been talked to multiple times. He's at least known around the league. So at least teams have had those conversations with him. And he's done a good job in the player development department. Because, the Royals were absolutely awful this year. But, they got the cupboard isn't exactly dry there. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is there. I mean,
Singer.
Yeah. Brady Singer. I mean, the guy's done a good job developing those guys. I mean, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be a good player in this league. I think he will be an all-star eventually. But so it's not like he's coming into the job completely empty-handed. And it's also nice to see that the White Sox weren't going to be insular, which is what they've been known to do. Because I know that they had a conversation with Ozzie Guillen, although Ozzie 2 would be a really interesting sequel in Chicago. But also the fact that, and to be truthful, it was a guy that I wasn't expecting them to hire personally. I thought they would go with Willie Harris. But as far as and then Skip Schumacher, I mean, the guy's been with the Cardinals for a while, both as a player and a bench coach. So he's seen how the Cardinals do things. The big question over there is, for him, is will Bruce Sherman get in the way? He did it. I think personally, he did that with Derek Jeter, with what Derek Jeter was trying to build, which Derek Jeter built up. It was better than what it was. I'm not saying Derek Jeter wasn't without faults, but Bruce Sherman kind of did get in the way there. That's why Derek left, because he wanted Nick Castellanos, and the Marlins weren't going to pay him. And so there went that. But I think Schumacher, personally, I think the guy, I mean, obviously he's a first-time manager, so he's going to have his faults just because you're just getting into the job. But I think he can be a good manager. He's been with a great organization in the Cardinals, and let me tell you, the Cardinals have churned out great managers in the past. And as far as the Royals go with Matt Quatrero, I mean, they want to go analytical. I mean, you pick the right franchise to go from, who are as analytical as you can get. And so, I think, coming from that organization, we've seen countless guys go on and have success coming from that organization. And so I think personally, since they're trying to go that route and trying to be kind of with the program, more, I think they had some analytics, but I think they're trying to go more that route, understanding the limitations of their market. I think they picked the right guy to do it.
Okay, well,
I think Skip Schumacher's the right hire.
I think so too.
He's a decent player in his own. He was with the Cardinals and the Padres, so he's seen how both those teams work. He actually was given a young team to work with. Unfortunately, Mattingly was given a team sure, they made the postseason in the COVID shortened season, but I think it wasn't it under Mattingly where Yelich and all those guys left, or was that before he got there?
That was I think after he got there, because they traded. I think he arrived. No, he was there for that. But problem was they never had the pitching, because that was after Jose Fernandez died. So he kind of had some bad luck there.
Schumacher has been around the game for a while. He's seen the ins and outs, and definitely think he's a good hire. Like JP and Eric said, Matt Quatrero. If you want to go analytical, you went with the right guy, because the Rays are known for their analytics. Pedro Grifol, he was a minor league coach for the Royals, so I could see where they came from. I was shocked Mattingly or Girardi didn't get a job, but still, I think Schumacher was the best hire of the three.
Yeah, interesting. That I am kind of shocked that joemaddon and Joe Girardi or Mattingly didn't get another opportunity, but it just goes to show you where you talk about the trends of where hires are going. And again, they're looking for
young
first-time managers with experienced coaches. Before I go on to our final topic, subscribe to the South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel, or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. And the advertise call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. I should point out, if you have difficulties subscribing through the Tribune, go over to youtube.com, look for South Florida Tribune with your search button, and then please subscribe that way. So we will certainly welcome, and then you'll get all the updates that we get, both as we do our streams, as well as some of the things that we do on the road as well, including we have a good little playlist of shows that stem back to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So that we did over the summer. With that said, final topic of the night, then we go to parting shots. The World Series to this point, there was a rain out yesterday, and now there's going to be 3 games in a row in Philadelphia. So, JP, how do you size what's ahead for the next 3 nights out in City of Brotherly Love?
Man, the Phillies are hungry. Like it's been since 2008, and their crowd is electric, and they're 5-0 in the playoffs playing at home. So I feel like that crowd is gonna make a huge difference for them in these 3 games in a row. Will, do you have something to say?
No, I was gonna say it's been since 2000.
Go
No
ahead.
offense, it's been since 2009.
But since they won,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
because
I was like,
09 was a good
we
year.
won in 2009.
no, I thought you meant like
but-
since they've been in the World Series. I was like,
okay,
sorry.
no, but thanks for
My bad.
correction.
My
But
bad.
I meant just since they won one, and so
I wasn't
yeah,
trying to judge.
you're okay. But yeah, I think they're hungry. I don't know. I mean, they're like we've seen both teams come back from crazy deficits, so it's just gonna be like cutthroat. I think from here on out. Yeah.
Well, all right, so I want to ask you, JP, and then the rest. Does Justin Verlander, who's scheduled to pitch in Game 5, finally get a win in the World Series? Up to this point, he's 0-6. JP, I'll ask you that question first, and then the rest of the crew will go ahead and talk about the 3 games in a row.
I don't know. I mean, it'll be their first game back in Houston, so maybe. But
Well, no, I
don't
think
know.
Game 5, JP, I believe, is in Philadelphia.
Oh, it would be in Philly, right? Then I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, well, Vogel, we'll go ahead. 3 games in a row after a rain out. You know the drill.
Man, Philly's excited. Before I came on the podcast, I listened, and Bryce Harper, and they interviewed him, and like, what do you think of this crowd? He's like, man, they're electric, they're hungry, they're ready for us to win. He put it exactly correct. This team hasn't won the World Series since 2008. The Astros have won it lately, but this Phillies team is a wild card team, and they barely snuck into the playoffs. They are hungry. They've got great bats. They've got good pitching. They're desperate to win this World Series, and right now, how this game's going, good luck, Houston. And do I think Verlander's going to get it? No. As good of a pitcher he is, this Philadelphia crowd is electric, and like I said, and Philadelphia has to take advantage while they can, because as we know, Philadelphia is one of those tough sports cities. Either the fans love you or the fans hate you, and you want your fans, especially when you're in the World Series, to love you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Well, obviously it's going to be a great series regardless. I mean, the Phillies, right? The Phillies barely got in. Actually, had the Brewers taken care of the Marlins, the Brewers would have gotten in, but obviously that didn't happen. But the Phillies, they are hungry. Their fans have been waiting. They just want another winner. They haven't won it since 08. And they just want at least they have been an underdog all year. They fired Joe Girardi early in the season. They bring in Rob Thompson, which no one expected him to do what he has done. Matter of fact, I remember in a previous show we talked about how attractive Philadelphia would be considering how that offense is, and also Dave Dombrowski was probably on the burner as well at the end of the year, because typically when you fire a manager mid-year, your job is on the line. But they've made it this far, and Dombrowski probably saved his job for the next while. But that offense, I've been raving about it all year. It is built to bash. I mean, they have Justin Verlander going in Philadelphia. He hasn't looked that sharp in the playoffs. The Yankees got to him. Unfortunately, they were unable to really do more damage, even though I thought they should have. But that team, the Phillies are built to bash. They are a different breed. They have Bryce Harper, who wants his first World Series ring. And those Phillies fans, I will say this though, I was speaking to my dad the other night, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you remember everybody in Philadelphia?" I'm like, "Yeah, what about them?" And he's like, "Yeah, they were texting me in the middle of the night telling me how excited they were for the World Series." and as he was going to sleep. That's how crazy they are. And Philadelphia, it's a tough sports town. It's not too dissimilar to New York, where if you're losing, they'll pour trash on you.
That's
and if
what
you're
I
winning,
said. They
and
love
if you're
you,
winning, they will
hate
still
you.
pour garbage on you. That's just how it is. And so there is, like, you're either a winner or a loser in their eyes. That's just how it's been for probably since before I was born. But at the same time, though, you'd rather have the garbage poured on you when you're winning. And so, but either way, it's still going to be a great series. But right now, with Dusty Baker, given his playoff history, as much as I want to see him win it, man, the Phillies I just feel like they are on a mission right now.
The city is electric. Like, they rejected a pizza. They rejected the Astros pizza order last night. Like a South Philly pizzeria.
Oh, of all places.
I know. Everybody's got their back.
You think you could order pizza?
Information, JP. I'm impressed. Look at that. She's making strides after her second rodeo. I didn't know anything about the rejected pizza order. All right,
awesome.
Very good. See, this is what we're developing here.
That's what you get for rolling into town and flipping off the Phillies fans, Verlander. So now he's going to get his loss in Game 5.
Look at her. My goodness.
They are not easy. Verlander. They are vicious. They do not play.
No, I know. Hey, listen, I've dealt with Philly fans before, so I know that if they're the city of brotherly love, then Santa Claus is Jewish. So go figure it out. That's just my little.
That?
Huh?
Oh, I will say though, when you're losing, they pour garbage on you, but when you're winning, they still pour garbage on you.
I could tell you guys down the line how many interesting spring training stories I had in Clearwater, Florida, and they are rough. They are rough. And any town where you have a jail inside the stadium to control the fan base, there's nothing like it. But you know what, JP, I got to tell you something. I'm glad you brought that incident with Verlander flipping the finger. This is exactly what I'm telling you, folks. I don't like to do my own people, but I always believe you give credit where it's due. This is what we need. We need people prepared that are willing to incorporate the timely facts, and that's what you did. So, Eric, my question to you is, does Justin Verlander get a win in this particular series?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because he has not looked sharp at all in the postseason. He is shaky right now, and going into a road game against Philadelphia where they are just they are drooling for him to be out there on the mound after giving everybody in Philadelphia the bird. They are going to let him have it. This is how they are, and boy, I can guarantee you, everybody going to that game is going to be yelling at Verlander from all angles. And with how shaky he has been, and with that lineup that as hot as it's been, putting in the runs, it's going to be a long night.
Can I say something real quick? I know I'm pulling a 6-0 bottom.
Schwarber
5.
just homered.
Schwarber just had a 2-run jack.
6-0 Philadelphia. Well,
yep.
Okay.
Like I said, built to bash.
All right.
That's just it. Like you mentioned Harper, but it's like Schwarber and then Real Muto. Like,
well, you know what, JP?
Harper
and Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm. Don't forget about him.
Let me tell you, JP, I've had a chance to see the Phillies a lot when they played the Marlins. And when Eric says built to bash, I've seen Bryce Harper do some unbelievable things. We know Nick Castellanos got to be contributing. Bryce Hoskins is in there. And you guys name a few other players I'm probably missing.
Schwarber's a freaking tank.
Oh, yeah.
And JT, Real Muto.
Right. There
Also, Alec Boehm has been nice since in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just had a home run tonight.
Yep.
All right, so Jordan, give me your take. 3 games in a row. Obviously, it looks like the Astros are in trouble here with that 6-0 deficit that they have.
It's only game 3. I mean, this was the game that Philadelphia had to have. You're in front of your home crowd. You're up 6-0. The Astros, I expect to come back. They just have to win 1 game in the next 3. That way you can go home and try to salvage this to a 7-game series. I'm not surprised that Philadelphia has come out the way they have just because of their crowd. You're up 6-0. You're going to probably win game 3. Game 4 really is the more important game for the Astros and the Phillies because, of course, if the Philadelphia Phillies win that game, you're up 3 games to 1 with a chance to close in a game 5. So really, tomorrow night is the key game. As for Justin Verlander, I don't see him winning a game in this series. You go back to game 1, which he started. He pitched 5 innings, gave up 5 runs, all of them earned, 6 hits, 2 walks. The Phillies, like we've been saying, their offense is just too good. I just don't see Verlander silencing those bats.
Yeah, well,
Can
you know
I say
what?
real quick? Oh, sorry, Scott.
That's all right. I've always said the Phillies are on house money. Anytime you get in a wild card team and you're the third team in your division, behind 2 teams that won 100 games, my goodness, what can you say?
I saw a fun stat, I think, earlier. It said the winner of Game 3 wins the series 69% of the time.
Well,
Okay,
there you go.
Well, you know, sometimes it's hard to argue with statistics. I will say one thing when I compare Justin Verlander with Clayton Kershaw. They're not the greatest postseason pitchers at all, and they struggle to win in the World Series. All right, well.
Nope, that was all I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Justin Verlander or Clayton Kershaw, they do struggle definitely in the World Series into the postseason. Their regular season records are great. Their accomplishments with no hitters is great, strikeouts and whatnot. And I think really Justin Verlander stands to be the only pitcher left that could reach the 300 win plateau. Otherwise, I don't think there's another pitcher that's going to hit that number at all. So take it for whatever it's worth. I know we'll be talking about it again next Tuesday night. All right.
I'd like to say though that it's 7-0 Phillies. It's just 7-1.
Okay, well that's fine. All right, so we'll go to our parting shots tonight. All right, Eric, lead off.
Well, all I can say about the Phillies is they are a team on a mission. They were counted out and made fun of all year long, and we thought the season was done when they fired Girardi, which I personally thought they'd stick it out with him all year and then fire him probably after this season. But the job that Rob Thompson has done, it has to be one of the best managerial jobs done, of all time, because he comes in into a pretty shaky situation. They had just fired their manager. The team was kind of in a free fall. He goes ahead and turns it around, and then the lineup just gets it going. And then the second half, they just get hot. And the fact that they made it out of the NL East, which was probably one of baseball's toughest divisions, at least in the National League, they make it past the Braves, who personally I thought the Braves were going back. The Braves just had the pitching, they had the bats, and I thought the Braves had an opportunity to really go back and make some noise. But the fact that they were able to just go through the wild card game, go through the NLDS, go through the NLCS, and just guide themselves through there, especially through a red hot San Diego Padres team that took out the New York Mets, a team I really enjoy making fun of year in and year out. But the fact they've made it this far, and the fact they are just taking it to the Astros right now at home, it's one heck of a story. I didn't pick the Phillies to go to the World Series regardless, and let alone win it. I didn't even think they'd make the playoffs. But you know what? It'd be a great story if they won it.
Okay, well,
I have to mimic what Eric said. Phillies fans, soak this in. I think you're going to be a good team next year also. If you can retain the same guys and you're going to have Rob Thompson back, why not make some more noise in the NL East? Why not fight for the next time the divisional crown? This team is electric, and we haven't seen a wild card team like this in a few years, probably. And this team is no slouch. You got all-stars on the team. You got MVPs on this team. And for them making the World Series, I give them 100% credit. Do I love the Phillies? No, I'm a Yankee fan. But do I give them credit? You have to give them credit. If you're a baseball fan and you're a Mets fan or NL East fan of the other teams, you have to give Philly credit. Whether you love them or you hate them, give the team credit because this team is fun to watch.
okay, Jordan.
So my parting shot is non-baseball. It's in the NFL. As the trade deadline passed today, the Denver Broncos, why in the world did you trade Bradley Chubb to the Miami Dolphins? I get it. You get a first-round pick out of it, which we actually need. But Chubb was one of your better outside linebackers to stop the run and blitz the quarterback. Then you make a move to acquire another linebacker, Jacob Martin, who's not as good as Chubb. Money saver, yes, because Chubb may not be coming back next year because he's a free agent. But still, the only difference between Jacob Martin and Bradley Chubb is that Martin has actually stayed healthy. He's played more games at 69 than Chubb. But I think the only reason why you made this trade, though, is you're expecting that Randy Gregory is going to be healthy. But I still don't understand the trade other than you get a first-round pick, which we badly needed.
JP?
I have to take it back to the World Series. I agree with everything that Eric and Will were saying, and I was reading a post-game press conference this morning that Rob Thompson did, and he was attributing his success as a manager to like being a field coordinator and a farm director. He said that there's a lot of studying that has to be done in that role and how managers are going to use pitchers, and so I just thought that was an interesting take and attribution that he attributed his success to that. And I think the Phillies are going to go all the way. I would love to see them storm Houston and win it all there.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, all right, I'll give you my parting shot. Guess what? When it comes to some of the oldest franchises in baseball, people want to leave, other ones to go other places. Scott Harris was poached from the Giants to the Detroit Tigers. So, why not? They're one of the pioneer franchises out there. And now we're talking a little bit about the Tampa Bay Rays, right? The Tigers hired away Rob Metzler as their director of amateur scouting. So you talk about guys, and now the Tampa Bay Rays, and we alluded to it earlier, their analytics, the Royals brought in former bench coach Matt Quattrero to the Royals. Now, that may not be related, but there's something about traditional baseball franchises that have been around for the better part of 80 to 100 years that if you're whether you're a bench coach, manager, or an executive, and you can turn them around, that to me is remarkable. Now, albeit, okay, Theo Epstein turned the Boston Red Sox into world champions and then did it with the Cubs. But what the Tigers have done is very respectable because, let's face the reality, while the Giants have a great history, am I being partial toward the Tigers? A little bit. But when you can go ahead and land a position with one of those, when you talk about the Tigers, you talk about an organization that had one of the original Hall of Famers in Ty Cobb, in first class. And of course, the Yankees had Babe Ruth in there. These are the jobs that really define your legacy, that if you can go out there and turn one of these original franchises around, you look really good. So more, and unfortunately, I kind of wonder what the Rays are going to look like because they've been so good for so long with so few resources. And now other teams are starting to recognize that they've made good hires and they want to see some of those hires turn out well. And they've been exceptional in the player development area. So,
You know what? Oh, sorry, Scott. You know what's sad? Some of the original teams have not been turned around. Like lately, the Reds and the Pirates just have been so pitiful, and you want to see those teams go back to their glory days. Like the Reds when they had the big red machine, and the Pirates,
you do,
the We Are Family, Pittsburgh Pirates. Like I know Pittsburgh fan, I know a Reds fan, and he's like, man, I grew up during the big red machine era, and now we just suck. So it sucks seeing those old time teams like the Reds and the Pirates just not look like a shell of them, their former selves.
You're right, but the only difference in this case with the Tigers versus the Pirates and the Reds is the Tigers will spend money.
Oh yeah, the Pirates will ship anyone out. I'm calling it right now. I think O'Neal Cruz is going to be trading the next 3 years because the Pirates just love shipping people.
Well, I know, but let me stay on course, Will. Okay, you had your opportunity. I've got mine. All right, just making sure that I realize that the difference between the Reds and the Pirates is they're a small market franchise that won't spend the money. The Tigers will spend the money. They have in the past. And while it's imperative that you develop from within, you really have to go out there and try to protect what you have. And I decided to go this way because of the direction that the show's going on right now. That the Tampa Bay Rays have done a lot with nothing. They develop and they're competitive every year and they fell into pieces. But when teams start to recognize specific teams that have great analytical people and then they bring them over, why would you not want to go to one of those franchises? But Will, not trying to be rude or disrespectful, okay, you are right about those. I would love to see the Pirates relevant. I would love to see the Reds relevant, but it's about how deep they go into their checkbook is what they do. And
they don't. I agree.
that's my
They
point.
don't.
That's my point. I'll even mention something here before we wrap it up tonight. That earlier, TJ Hawkinson was traded from the Detroit Lions to the Minnesota Vikings. And you know what? That move baffles me because you know what? The Lions simply didn't want to pay him, and they don't like to keep players past their first contract. And as a result, it deflates the fan base. You're going to see, unfortunately, we're seeing too much of this stuff where, you know what? Patience can only last so long until at some point it's going to bite you in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, I just think that more power to the Rays. They're churning up good people, but now I think the rest of Major League Baseball and their teams are getting smarter by hiring these people. That's all I'm going to say about it. So,
I agree.
So, anyways, with that said, okay, Jordan, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me here on 108 Stitches on Tuesdays. On Mondays during the NBA season, the NBA Carousel hosted by Megan Price. Word is we're going to start in January. Thursdays during the NFL season, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel hosted by Eric Wilson. Fridays, I have my own show that I will post on my blog, which is at sports-scoop.com, and it will be uploaded onto the Sideline Sports YouTube. On Saturdays, it's called Under Review, which is just a show that I talk about Colorado sports with a sprinkling of national sports series as well. And I'm on all other Sideline Sports Network shows when needed. Also, read my blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays with podcasts on Fridays at sports-scoop.com.
Very good. All right, Will.
You guys can find me here on Tuesday nights on 108 Stitches on baseball. Thursday nights on the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price and Jahan Phillips. Sunday nights, Basket Bros, Scott, myself, Denzel Snipes, Jacob Christner, and Dom Darubas. Monday nights, NBA Carousel.
Okay, Eric.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports Team News. I also host the show Fired Up Wisconsin, where we talk about all things Wisconsin sports, and I also appear here on 108 Stitches talking all things Major League Baseball.
Very good. All right, JP.
All right, you can find me on here on Tuesday nights. You can find me on Twitter at 90s Kid. And you can also follow me at Jersey Sporting News, where I cover the Yankees, all things Yankees. So I'm actually getting ready to run a fan feature series that'll start the week after the World Series. Every Friday, I will be featuring a different Yankee fan and their history as a fan. So be sure to head over there.
I would love.
Yeah, well, Eric, if you guys would like to participate, I'd love to have you.
I would love to.
I'm actually working on it as we speak. It's just I'm like, wow, I have to really think about this.
No rush. But yeah.
JP, okay. I would love to join.
Awesome.
You'll love my underrated Yankee.
There you go. All right. Well, let me give our information real quick before we call it a night. Subscribe to South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or visit www.southfloridatribune.com. And the advertise call 954-304-4941. The audio portion of the show can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. I had something caught in my throat. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. If you want to email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Tribune South. Special kudos to Candy Ebling, who does an incredible job putting all of our content up there, both the shows as well as the written material that we get. So, and if you have difficulties finding South Florida Tribune YouTube channel on our website, just go to youtube.com and search for South Florida Tribune, and please subscribe. We do a lot of things on the road as well as here by streaming, and we have a lot of ambitious ideas coming forward. So be well. I'm really proud of the crew. You guys all did an outstanding job. JP, I knew you were going to get better with every show, and definitely you showed that you're a lot more comfortable tonight, and you only have only the one thing that's going to happen to you, JP. You're going to continue to get better and better with every episode that we put together. So good stuff. All of you, JP, as well. Okay. So meanwhile, on behalf of Jordan Long, Eric Katz, Will Vogel, and JP, my name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Mad Mouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will catch you next Tuesday night, time to be determined. So follow us on social media, and we'll make sure you'll be up to date on the time. Good night, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. And by then, we'll have a World Series champion. Bye now.